rain, leaves, roots, and mist hiding whatever is moving deeper inside the green wall. There is only the sound of water and the slow breathing of the forest, a place so dense that even a giant can disappear inside it. Somewhere inside this wall does not need them. Its power moves low through mud, roots, and shadow. The forest is built to hide it, breaking the body into fragments until a huge bird becomes only shadow, feather, and movement. Then a shape appears between the leaves, not rushing, not calling attention to itself, but carrying the weight of something ancient. Black feathers fall like coarse hair, the blue neck glows in the shade, and the red wattles hang beneath a helmet rising from the head. Below the body, two powerful legs move through mud with almost no sound, carrying the part of the bird that must always be respected. This is the cassowary, a bird that looks as if it walked out of another age and learned how to vanish inside the rainforest. But the story of this bird does not begin with power. Before the weapon, before the giant, it begins with an egg on the forest floor. Hidden on the forest floor, the egg lies among wet leaves, insects, fungi, roots, and shadows. Before the cassowary becomes one of the most intimidating birds on earth, it begins as something silent, helpless, and easily lost in the wet darkness. That is the part most people never imagine, because they see the adult and remember only the size, the warning, and the weapon. They remember the huge body, the dangerous foot, and the blade-like inner claw that makes this bird impossible to treat like something harmless. The warning is real, matter. The small life inside the shell has to survive long enough to grow it. Before the weapon grows, there is only a clutch on the ground, over the clutch until he almost becomes part of the forest floor. Rain falls, leaves rot, insects move, and the air grows heavy with humidity. Yet the father remains. For weeks, his world shrinks to the eggs beneath him, and the hidden giant must trade movement for patient searching. He cannot feed as freely as he once did, because for this part of his life, hunger must wait behind the heavier task of protection. He cannot leave the clutch open for long, because on the rainforest floor, something unguarded can become vulnerable before the danger is even seen. He has to master stillness, becoming less like a traveler and more like part of the ground. That is the... But from movement into patience. The rainforest does not make this easy, because a nest on the ground is never truly safe, even when it is hidden well. Around him, the forest has teeth, claws, hunger, and accidents, and any one of them can reach the nest before the chicks ever see daylight. A falling branch can be enough to end what has barely begun, because in the wild, danger does not always arrive with eyes or teeth. Floodworm can become a predator if the rain lasts too long. Inside each shell, a small life is forming in darkness. Within the shells, the father listens, because the eggs cannot read the forest yet, and every warning must pass through him first. The rainforest is not quiet. It clicks, drips, rumbles, and breathes, filling the air with... A leaf falling may mean nothing, and a branch creaking may still be only weather. But the father has to decide before the forest explains itself. A sudden movement in the leaves, all become living chicks. Then one day, the stillness changes, not with drama, but the world it has ever known. A wet, striped chick pushes into the rainforest, small enough to vanish under leaves and fragile enough for the whole forest to matter. It is nothing like the adult yet, with no black armor, no blue throat, and no towering casque, only stripes meant to turn a chick into a shadow. Those stripes are not decoration. In the broken light of the rainforest floor, they are the first protection the chick will ever wear. A root, a stem, a streak of leaf shadow knocklive. The chick survives by becoming one more pet. To survive, it must be seen clearly by its father and missed by everything else, where every root is an obstacle and every shadow may be hiding a decision. Above it, the father is enormous, a living wall of black feathers and muscle standing between the chick and a forest it cannot yet understand. But even he cannot remove every day. Young cassowary does not begin life as a monster. It begins by following, placing its front roots through ferns, past fallen fruit, and along paths that only the forest seems to remember. There is no clean horizon view and print. In this forest, everything is close. Leaves brush level, mud gives way beneath the chick, turning even a simple step into a lesson that the father's heavy feet have already learned by memory. Water hides in shallow hollows, and what looks like a patch of leaves can become a crossing that forces the chick to stop, judge, and trust the path ahead. A harmless shadow can look like a mouse when the forest is this dense. And for a chick, fruiting trees and hidden paths all become part of the same map. The chick must learn this living map while the father is still close enough to correct the path, with nothing more than a pause or a turn. At first, food is part of the lesson, because the chick has to learn which fallen shapes are life, and which are only rot in the leaves. Cassowaries are famous for power, but much of their daily life is but teaches the chick that the forest floor is never truly empty. Fruit falls from high branches and lands in the dark, and the bird that looks like a weapon. That is the secret beneath the frightening appearance. The bird that looks prehistoric lowers his head, watches where he steps, and begins to learn which fallen things matter in a world crowded with decay. Some fallen things are food and only rot, and the chick must learn the difference by following a parent that already knows the forest's hidden menu. Judging. The forest floor is never empty. Fruit hides under leaves. Snails cling to wet bark. The chick must learn to search without drifting too far, because the difference between curiosity and danger can be only a few steps in the wrong direction. Too far from the father, the chick becomes a small moving shape in a forest, where many things can notice movement before they reveal themselves. So it stays close, slipping back into the father's shadow, where the huge and when no danger is visible yet. When he moves quickly, it hurries after him, not because it understands the reason, but because following the rhythm may be enough to stay alive. And when his deep rumble moves through the humid air, the chick hears more than a sound. It hears direction, warning, and the burst of rain can blur the world, turning the father into a dark shape ahead, and forcing the chick to follow sound more than sight. A stream crossing that means almost nothing to the adult can become a border for the chick, where water, mud, and hesitation all arrive at once. A tangle of roots can be crossed without thought by the father, but for the chick it becomes a puzzle of balance, timing, and nerve. Body. It can rise like a wall across the only safe direction. A moment of panic could send it the wrong way, so the chick has to learn one of the forest's hardest lessons. Sometimes not moves, and the chick must keep up, because protection in this forest is not a place, it is a moving shadow it has to stay inside. Every small one of the chick's first lessons is learning when to wait instead of moving. The cassowary's strength begins long before the claw-big foot, and when to stop. A choice to follow instead of stray may look small, but in a forest this crowded, that choice can be the difference between growing and disappearing. In forests, something huge can disappear as if the forest has closed behind it. This is why the cassowary feels mysterious, not because it is supernatural, but because its world is built from concealment, like shape that makes the cassowary seem older than the forest path it is walking. People have argued about what this structure does, because nature does not always offer one clean answer to a shape of this strange. Maybe it helps reveal age or presence, giving the bird a visual signal in a forest where bodies appear and vanish in fragments. Maybe it plays some role in sound, because in thick rainforest, a low call can matter more than a clear view. Maybe it helps as the bird pushes through thick vegetation, where every step do more than one thing, because living structures are often shaped by several not in a sudden dramatic change, but slowly, as the forest begins to fit its body. The transformation happens slowly. The stripes fade, the body darkens, the neck begins to change, and the legs learn to carry more certainty. And beneath it, the weapon is forming with our rainforest bird that has to move across roots, mud, slopes, and hidden ground. 3 toes hold the ground, the legs carry weight, and every step shows a benchable. For the cassowary, space matters, because dense cover gives it choices, and a path through vegetation gives it a way not to fight. It's taller, the feathers lift, and the warning comes before the feet ever need to answer. If panic or pressure removes every choice, those legs can become dangerous quickly, not because the bird wants harm, but because it wants space. That is the contradiction that can become frightening if pushed too far, yet survives most days by avoiding conflict entirely. For the young birdless if it is spent in the wrong moment. A chick cannot solve the rainforest by force. It has to hide first, follow first, remember first. There are moments when the father's protection becomes visible, when he stops, rises slightly, and a sound has changed inside the green wall, and the ch-chen. Maybe it is only a branch, maybe another cassowary, maybe something has caught the scent of young birds, Survival often depends on treating uncertainty with respect, because waiting too calmly can be fatal, but reacting too violently can break the path to safety. Father does not need to attack to protect before danger can become a scene, because the best battles in nature often never happen. The cassowary's reputation is built on the power it can use, but its survival is built on all the times it chooses not to. As the chicks grow, the father leads them farther, and the small safe world around the nest begins to widen into a map of the rainforest. A fruiting tree becomes more than a place to eat. It becomes a point in memory. A muddy crossing becomes another lesson. A place where the canopy opens can offer light, but it also removes some cover, and the chicks learn that brightness is not always the same as safety. A place which is worth entering. Sometimes another bird's low call means the path should change, because the rainforest is not only a place of food, but a place of boundaries. The young birds are learning a hidden geography, not drawn on paper, but written in shade, fruiting size. And storms break branches and erase old tracks, so memory must stay flexible, guiding the birds without trapping them in yesterday's forest, a territory of possibilities hidden inside the green. And this is where the modern danger begins, because the forest that once seemed endless is not endless anymore. For a cassowary is a line of speed through a world that evolved around footpaths, cover, shade, and slow decisions. A fence can become confusion, not dog can turn confusion into panic, and panic is dangerous in a forest where survival depends on choosing the next path correctly. Turning food from a lesson in survival into a dangerous invitation, the cassowary's ancient body was built for thickets, rain, roots, and hidden paths, and forest back together. If the paths between food, water, and cover are broken into pieces, even a powerful father cannot make the chicks' world whole again. This is the part of the cassowary story that changes the way weapon, but the deeper story is more fragile than fear allows. The giant depends on fruit, the chick depends on the father it must travel, and the seeds must leave the tree that made them. The father must lead through rain, roots, food, water, and cover, because the chick's survival is not one safe place but a route it has to learn. Adult must travel between fruiting trees, carrying meals through the dark and carrying the next forest farther than the parent tree could ever send it. Thus, the seeds must find new ground, and that future begins quietly, left in damp soil. Like the movement, and the story weakens, because food, shelter, chicks, adults, and seeds all depend on the forest still being connected enough to walk. 4's. The cassowary does not need open sky or a savanna horizon. It needs shadow, wet leaves, needs a forest deep enough to hide something large, because concealment is not decoration here. It is part of how this bird survives. When the adult finally appears, its power is not only size or claw, it is every stage that came before it, carried forward in one hidden body. Inside the adult's power is the egg that did not flood, the fragile beginning that survived rain, rot, shadows, and the dangers of the forest floor. It is the chick that did not wander too far, the small striped body that learned early that curiosity can become danger when it steps beyond the father's shadow. It is the father that did not abandon the nest, a dark, patient body that gave the chicks their first chance before they ever learned to follow. Since the lessons learned in mud and shade, the pauses, crossings, hidden paths, and careful, it is the dangers avoided, the battles that never happened, and worry moving through the green. It is the food found after rain, the fruit remembered in the right very days survived without becoming a scene, and a cassowary live, by letting the forest by the tongue moves like the striped chick that once hurried beneath its father's body, feet on uneven ground as if the forest has begun to recognize it. The rainforest that once towered over it now seems to open around it, but the next less survival without shelter. Dependence does not arrive gently, because at some point the father stops being shelter, and the young bird has to face the forest without standing inside his shadow. Same parent that protected it may eventually push it away, not from cruelty, but because the next stage of survival cannot happen under that can sound harsh to us, but the rainforest has limited space, and a young made. Now it must find its own fruiting trees, its own water, its own hidden paths, and its own quiet. This is the final test of childhood, not a dramatic battle, but the moment when memory has to become survival and the bird must choose without being led. And now the bird walks alone, still learning the edges of its world, still discovering where food falls. It has to notice where another cassowary has passed, because the forest is not empty territory waiting for it. It is already crossed by lives it must learn to read. It will not succeed because it is fearless. Because fearlessness gets animals killed. It will succeed. Its strength is real, but strength alone is not enough. The cassowary survives by being cautious. That is the truth behind the cassowary. It is not simply the most dangerous bird, because that warning is too small for a life this complex. To call it only dangerous turns a life into a warning, and misses the quieter truth written in the fruit, the mud, and the paths it walks. Cassowary is also a father sitting in rain over green eggs, giving stillness to little night alone. It is a striped chick learning to vanish, discovering that in this forest being unseen can be as important as becoming strong. It is a fruit eater carrying seeds through darkness, moving the forest's future in a body that many people notice only because of its foot. It is a solitary giant moving through paths older than roads, following a rainforest logic that existed long before speed cut across the trees. It can be dangerous because it belongs to a world where space, cover, and respect matter, and where taking away an exit changes everything. The claw is real, and the danger is real, but so is the vulnerability that came before it, and the caution that still lives beneath the feathers. Who is the patience, the parenthood, and the quiet work of rebuilding the rainforest one swallowed fruit and one hidden path at a time. If you only see the foot, you miss the story, and if you only see the monster, you miss the survivor that had to grow into it. Cassowary looks ancient because it carries an ancient lesson. Survival is not always speed, attack, or being the strongest thing in the forest. Sometimes survival is letting the forest cover the fragile body until it becomes something harder to threaten. It survives by following the right voice while it is young, until memory becomes the path it can walk alone. It survives by learning the right path, not the easiest path, because the safest way through the rainforest is often the one most hidden from view. It survives by remembering where the fruit falls, because in a changing forest, it survives by knowing when to stand tall. The rainforest does not reward noise for long. It rewards the animal that understands shadows. Waits, few birds understand those shadows like the cassowary, a giant that can be close enough to change the air and still remain half hidden. By the end of the journey, the striped chick that once vanished among leaves has become the shape people fear seeing too close. A tall black figure in the green, a blue neck in the mist, a helmeted head turning slowly as if the forest itself has decided to look back. A heavy foot settles into wet soil, and the blade-like claw remains hidden until the moment space is taken away. It does not need to roar, chase, or prove that it is dangerous, and the forest already knows what this bird can become when space disappears. This bird is not dangerous in spite of being hidden. It is dangerous because it survived hidden. Raised in shadow, guarded by a father, trained by rain and fed by fruit, the fragile chick becomes a body the forest has taught to endure. When the leaves part and a cassowary steps into view, you are not just seeing a strange bird. You are seeing a survival story with legs. It is a gardener with a weapon, a fruit eater with power under the body, and a fragile every step it takes. The cassowary is not a monster from the past. It is a living piece of the forest, and if the forest disappears, the weapon disappears with it. Without the forest, there are no hidden paths, no striped chicks following through wet leaves, and no great bird carrying seeds into the dark. There would be only silence where something ancient used to move, and a forest losing one of the bodies that helped carry its future. But where the rainforest still stands, the story continues. Rain falls, fruit drops, and a male lowers him. A chick breaks through its shell again, and a tiny striped body steps into the same world of roots, mud, rain, and danger. And somewhere deeper in the forest, an adult cassowary moves without hurry, not chasing fear, not performing for us. Its life is not built around spectacle. Most of its power is quiet, carried forward in ordinary steps through fruit, mud, shadow, and memory. Beside it, the next forest is being carried in silence, seed by seed, long after the fruit itself has disappeared. Beneath that calm body, the weapon is real, but it remains until pressure gives it a reason to matter. It is hidden until the leaves open, and in that brief opening the forest reveals a giant that was closer than it seemed. Then it is gone again before the rainforest gives away all its secrets, leaving only disturbed leaves and the sense that something ancient has passed. The story keeps circling through egg, chick, father, fruit, forest, and foot, each apart depending on the others to keep moving. The rainforest keeps most of its secrets, and the cassowary survives by belonging to that secrecy instead of fighting against it. So when this bird appears, it is not a monster from the past, but a living ancient presence still tied to every wet leaf around it. The rainforest still stands, the cassowary keeps walking, carrying a weapon beneath it, and the next forest quietly, and the next forest inside it, and carrying a weapon beneath it, both hidden in the same quiet body. Beneath the casque, the blue skin, and the black feathers, the final truth remains. The cassowary is not a monster from the past. It is a living piece of the rainforest, hidden until the leaves open, powerful because every part of its life belongs to this shadowed world. Then it is gone again, before the rainforest gives away all its secrets, leaving only wet leaves to close behind the path. Rinse. And somewhere beyond the mist, the story continues. Rain, fruit, eggs, chicks, concealment have their